talking about like meeting up and such, and he hasn't responded to my email in half a week. The main thing we have to look forward to next is the costume things. I'm so excited. I thought that was cool. What about you? All right. Kiss of Espresso for me was an interesting process because I felt like I often wasn't really sure entirely what was going on. I wasn't involved at all.
So, Ian Fawcett couldn't join us today because he was trapped in Rink.
Hello, America.
How much battery's on this? So, Kiss of Espresso. This was our third student film we were working on, and that's kind of a lot of context here for how this whole thing went down. The first two, Winner Take All and the regulars, were very frustrating experiences, having to work with the most resources and people we've all ever been able to work with before, but also basically with the studio, basically like time limits and restraints and just a mess because no one really knows what they're doing. And so over the summer we shot Hot Seat, and I thought that went a lot better. With Kiss of Espresso, we did not shoot with Compass because like a month before going to the second year of Compass College, the entire school shut down and they merged with Calvin University, and everybody like was very caught off guard and was like, wow, was not expecting this or anticipating it, and we had no warning, and people had already signed leases way far away from that place, and it was just a terrible experience going into that. And on top of that, you get to the Calvin University, the highest level class for filmmaking in that school, their film program, was basically what we were doing the first year of Compass. So we got thrown into a weird warped version of the 5-minute film that we did for Winner Take All and Regulars.
This class was kind of different from normal Calvin classes because it was kind of like a transition from the way Compass did the movies to the way that Calvin does the movies. And so it was a class of just Compass people. There were probably about 30 of us there.
The difference was it was not just one class, it was two classes. There was the class that actually was creative leading and producing that movie, and then there was a class of basically just people being crew members, which basically meant they did nothing except for when they needed to do something for us.
All of those people just didn't show up.
We had to rush the production a lot more than the other class we did for the 5-minute films, because their class was only half a semester. And so we had to film so they could get their credit of working crew, because they wouldn't be part of pre-production. We had to film before their class was over. So not just halfway through the semester, before halfway through the semester we had to shoot this thing. Which, you know, would have been nice having extra hands on, except not everyone in there even showed up.
Cal showed up. He's Cal. He's in the credits.
Except Cal.
Yeah.
Who's my homie. Yeah, he was great.
We got to, unlike with the regulars and Winner Take All, we got to pick our groups, who was in our group, and there was 3 people who volunteered for producers, so 3 movies were made. One of them was some strings attached, not no strings attached, with Kayla Brown and Corinne Dukes. But so Kayla volunteered, and then a different person volunteered, and then it was just quiet in the room, and no one was volunteering. So I was like, I'll do it. So I volunteered. I was the third one. This was after we did Hot Seat, and so I kind of knew the people that I wanted to work with, and most of them I got with, those being Tazio, Ian, and Crysantha.
Luke was my producer, and he picked me as director.
3 producers were just kind of had a meeting where we were negotiating who was on which team, and that's how we kind of figured that out. Yeah, and so then normally the way the class would work at Calvin is that the scripts would be picked from the writing class and then into the production class. But because this was a Compass transfer class, we kind of just, the day before the class started, Joshua was like, hey, I need any scripts you guys have to submit them, and then we can pick them for would be produced. And so Ian and I were like, we were together when we got that email. We were like, what do we do? Being the producer, I had to read the scripts and pick which one I liked and make it. I only read 2 of them. There was a lot of them. I only read 2 of them. And the reason why I picked Kiss of Espresso is because the original title was Coffee. And I was like, I like coffee, so I'll go with that. And it was a good script. It was a script written by Derek Smith, and I liked it. I told everyone in the group to write their own version of the script, and we would kind of cherry pick parts from all of them. The only people that did that were Crysantha and then our DP Tyler. Tyler kind of wrote something completely different, kind of based off of the general concept, but he took it in a completely different direction. Whereas Crysantha's version was more closer to the original, but there was obviously changes he made. So we went with that one, and I don't think I used any of Tyler's version. Yeah, so there was about a month and a half of the class was pre-production, and I remember Crysantha and I did all the writing for it, and this was probably some of the most fun I've ever had writing.
I had a lot of fun writing the script with Luke, bouncing off of ideas.
I would write something and send it to Crysantha, and then we would submit it to the class, and everybody would read it in front of the class, and everyone was like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever read.
People say I'm pretty good with dialogue, so I do take some pride in that.
Greatest thing I ever put to page, I think is what some of them said.
For our teacher, who's great, Joshua Corte, is great at getting us to write, and so we wrote 3 different drafts of it, and I didn't do any of the writing, but Luke and Crysantha were bouncing off each other. And
I think the story was great.
anyways, that just got funnier and funnier. We were reading it in class, everyone was laughing. It was like, oh, this script's awesome, this script's amazing, this is gonna be great.
But the problem was that there's more to being a producer than just writing, unfortunately. So we had to find locations, and then that was the biggest issue, was because I was sending pretty much any restaurant in the city of Grand Rapids. I sent an email to, and I only got like 1 response. It was like there was a coffee shop downtown. I'm not going to say which one, but they were like, yeah, you can film here, but it has to be during operating hours, and it's like $250 per hour. So it would cost several $1,000s, and because it was during operating hours, we couldn't really use any of the sound either. So it's like, this is pointless. And the budget for these films was $500, by the way. That was the school would reimburse $500. So the goal was to stick within the $500.
Every single location that Luke called did not get back to him. And when we tried to hold auditions, 1 person showed up. We had 3 characters. 1 person showed up for auditions. So we were scrambling together. I went and got one of my coworkers and she was in the movie. And then Luke just ended up getting the role that he wanted in the first place because we didn't have anyone else. And he's the best part of the movie. He's really great. I'm a big fan of all his scenes. That's a lot of fun.
I'm in the movie. I wasn't supposed to be. Ian wanted me to be in it from the beginning, but myself and the teacher were like, well, because I'm the producer of the film, we probably should cast somebody else, but we couldn't find anybody else. So I was in the movie.
But typically, to do this level of thing, we were going to have a directing class for Compass, but we didn't. So he gets thrown into this thing with absolutely no direction on how to direct people. And so he gets into the auditions, and I'm sitting there as the producer at this point.
Yeah, people started dropping out, and I had even dropped out for a couple of weeks as well. Then I came back. So that's why there's 2 producer credits. Tazio picked up producing during that time, and then when I came back, we both produced it to the finished product.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, he doesn't act, like, he's never done this at all, like nothing. No one has even given him tips for this. So like I went in and I told him some things that Joshua had told me the year before. Got along with all the actors great, but again, they kind of were just all on a different page, and it was too chaotic. We were rushing, and he didn't really say no to them a lot. So everybody was just kind of doing something different.
Because of how rushed everything was, we didn't have enough time to do rehearsals. So if you'll watch the movie, it seems like everybody's kind of in a different movie.
I wish that the dialogue got across as intended in the final product, but I digress.
My job originally was as cinematographer, and I quickly realized that was not going to work because I was above Tyler, who knew a lot more about cinematography and cameras than I did. And that was not really enjoyable. And after Luke left for a little bit, I took over as producer for him, which ended up being for the better anyways, because the producer role also had the AD, they had to assistant direct, and I had assistant directed, I've done the work for the assistant directing before. And so he got to produce and I got to assistant direct, and we got to tag team the producer slot while Tyler stepped up to be DP, which that was actually just like a great call that we made. We couldn't get anything. We showed up the day of shooting. We did not have a location to that day. We did not have a location. We had an option. We went to them and we looked inside and we were like, this isn't gonna work.
So yeah, at the last minute, we ended up just having to shoot in the basement of Ian's dorm.
That was like our biggest struggle, is getting a location, because a lot of the places that offered us times and places for, you know, this cafe kind of environment, they were offering like $100 an hour, and we could not afford that for multiple days of shooting, because we couldn't shoot everything in a single day. That would have just been nearly impossible. So we couldn't find anywhere else. So I was in contact with the manager at Johnny's. I don't know their names, so I won't say any names. But at Johnny's, they were not communicating with me well at all, and I was communicating perfectly with them, watching my emails all the time, texting them, even calling them when I could about like the location, asking them, hey, like giving them updates on production and asking them certain questions, and all I heard from her was yeah, and then the day of, we aren't told that we can go in there, and we aren't told yes you can fit, like we aren't, like she's not communicating with us. There are people who are not part of the film set, so customers currently eating at the Johnny's that I was contacting the manager that we were supposed to film at. I was asking, could it be possible that we come in and close? There were so many things that were going wrong, and it was all due to miscommunication, and that really just screwed us over with location, because if you watch the film, it's obvious that you're like, where are we? Like, what is this place? Especially if you don't go to Calvin. It's the basement of a dormitory. That's what we went with. We were just lucky enough that they had cafe-type chairs at the bottom of my dorm basement. So we used that last second.
So everyone showed up to this location, and we were like, no, we can't do this. And we looked at the script, and we had scenes that we needed to shoot outside, which we wanted to get that day, and the weather was terrible, and so we couldn't shoot outside, and it was going to be like that the entire week. We couldn't shoot outside. Coming back around to that, we couldn't shoot outside the entire weekend. It was just like, no, we can't shoot outside, but we have scenes that are outside. So very quickly, I just went to Ian and I said, okay, we need to just film the outdoor scenes in the location that we have. So we quickly figured out a way to shoot that introduction and like the ending as well. Just on the spot, we improvised those. So the final shot of the movie was just completely improvised. We made that up. Well, everything is made up, but we made that up the day. So we moved into just like a dorm basement.
Because originally, the final ending scene where our detective character is going out with our female maid, and they're together, and they have that whole final dialogue thing about how he just can't be with her because he's too busy. She's mad, drinks coffee, whatever, leaves. That was all supposed to be outside during a sunset. That was all supposed to be like gorgeous. We were all planning on that, and we had everything set up. And then it starts to rain, and we have to improvise. We had to improvise, and luckily I'd known that my dorm basement was a good location for that, so we were improvising with location.
We couldn't close it off, so there's people coming and going.
And we spent hours setting up the first shot, like not even shooting, just setting it up. And our DP, who knew what he was doing but didn't have anyone to work with, really.
I wish we had more people, because there were like some people, I believe there were like people who were just like dropping out of the project left and right.
We just spent forever setting up the lights and finding new problems to run into and fixing the lights, and we were all just basically waiting around. The actors were just waiting around, and we're just trying to be like, well, what's happening? We finally get it set up to look, like there's lighting, and we get like 1 or 2 shots in, and then a group of college girls came in and was like, "Actually, you have to reserve this place."
And on the first day of shooting, we only shot for like 2 hours because this group of women had come in to watch a movie. And we were like, "Hey, we're shooting a movie here." Like, well, we were watching a movie. This is a public area. You can't kick us out. So we're like, there's not much we can do. So we only shot for like 2 hours that day. But that didn't happen for the other 2 days, thankfully.
And so we had to, and I was like, thank God, because I want to go home. So we went home. We found a place to store our equipment, which that eventually backfired because eventually we hit, one of the days was like the 3rd day of shooting. We couldn't get into the place where we stored the equipment, so we're scrambling around trying to call people from the school to come open it. But no one interrupted us, so that was pretty nice.
On set, it was my first time with sound, so I'm not very proud with the way the sound turned out, but in my defense, there was a lot of noise on set, and I wasn't familiar with, I think it was Tyler's sound stuff I was working with, was it? And I didn't really he didn't really show me exactly how to work it. I just kind of had to figure it out on my own, but I think I did the best that I could do, so I'll say that.
On set was great.
One of the days we're ordering catering, and we don't know what we're gonna do for food. We don't know when it is really because our schedule is like, oh man, we have to do this like right now before we switch, or I don't know exactly how it came up, but we finally ordered the food separately. I forgot how this happened. We also sent someone to go get food because it wasn't showing up or something like that. And so by the time Cal comes back, after being gone for like an hour, and so again our cinematographer just doesn't have anyone to work with at all anymore. He comes back with Chick-fil-A, and another order of Chick-fil-A also arrives because we ordered twice. And this was the best part of the entire production because the school paid for that Chick-fil-A, and me and Luke took home $80 worth of Chick-fil-A sandwiches, and we ate those for like a month. And so I think it's like a win overall. We also didn't have an art director the entire time. Not the entire time, because again, I mean, it's not the credits, so it's not gonna badmouth anyone by name.
You notice I mentioned that there was 6 people that were kind of picked to be in the crew, but if you look at the credits, there's only 4 names in the credits. That's because there was a particular member of the crew who dropped out of the class.
One of our classmates, who was very stressed, like us, admittedly, but we're very frustrated with us for doing things that were completely not our fault, like not being able to find locations, quit the day of.
I don't want to be an asshole because I don't consider myself an asshole. Everyone did a good job. Nobody did anything necessarily wrong on that set when it comes to school films. When it comes to making a film for school for a grade, I don't think anybody did anything necessarily wrong aside from like bailing out. But that's understandable. I guess I could see why people would bail out, and it added more pressure onto other people.
So we show up to set and we get word from our teacher that our art director has dropped out. Didn't tell us they were gonna do that. And so we literally, like, the actors were like the art director, like paid attention to the props and everything. Like we just couldn't be bothered.
And they were really mad because I didn't have a schedule, and I didn't have a schedule because we didn't have a location to shoot. And so I was like, we tried to explain this to them, but they were just so mad. And then they got the teacher involved, and I was like, I don't know, I can't find a location. None of these places are getting back to me.
At this point, shooting the movie, I had also dropped out of the school. I was, it looks like it could be getting better. My opinion of it was that, like, oh, this isn't really like a film school like the other one. This is a communications degree. This is about business. They want us to make advertisements, and lots of the good stuff was just that they took some good teachers from campus. They seem to be doing a little better. I don't know, not paying too much attention. The other crazy thing that happened to me as the assistant director was I got a call like halfway through shooting, on the final day of shooting, from my manager at work that apparently like 2 weeks before I had scheduled like covering someone else's manager shift, and then I had also scheduled shooting the film that day. So they had to scramble in and cover me, and I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever done. Just like bailed on them. So there was just no one working at the store at my job. But it all worked out there as well.
I mean, the script is a lot of fun, but that doesn't really come through the finished product. We shot it, and then the rest of the class, there was like a month and a half, because we shot in October, so I guess the second half of October, November, and then the first half of December was all post-production. First time we watched it in class, it was just kind of a rough cut, and because of it was all of this stress that I had associated with shooting the film, I just couldn't watch it. Only the room was like yellow paint, and with the lights reflecting off of it, the whole film just had this weird yellow color to it, and it looked kind of gross. But then Crysantha's edit of it, I thought was actually really good. The black and white, I think it helped it a lot.
I had a lot of fun with the edit. I tried my best to make it look as good as it could. The yellow background, I think treating it black and white was the best option. I had a lot of fun with the intro, the board.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun making it like 3D and like moving it around. That was fun.
Yeah, we watched it in front of not the whole school, but there was people. We showed it in front of maybe 100 people. It was just silent.
And it was shown at the Calvin Media Showcase, and well, it's safe to say that there was a film. People were able to watch it, and that's fine.
And we were like, yeah, we were kind of. I mean, I think it's better than the two we shot with Compass, but especially when shown alongside Some Strings Attached, it's very clear the shortcomings of Kiss of Espresso.
But that's that heavily inspired the start of the Train Police. So these experiences are shaping the other things we're going to do in the future and the different relationships, creative relationships we're finding with people. So I like to look on the bright side and say like, oh yeah, this positive stuff came out of this. So yeah, if in a different world, the movie would be really funny because the script is really funny. Crysantha and Luke were doing a great job. Crysantha's edit's really great. Ian is a good director. I like to think I can AD a movie. I haven't done it under normal circumstances yet. Actually, I have. It's coming at a different time. But yeah, we had a good crew. The ones that showed up. So that's what we learned. Just make movies with people who will actually make the movie with you. That's what we need. So that movie killed my dog, but yeah, the script's really funny. I don't know if you can tell entirely. Crysantha's edit is really great. I mean, that's definitely the best thing we could have gotten out of it. Her color grading and her just edit in general, the music they found.
Yeah. I'm not very good at talking.
But you're good at editing and writing, and that's what's important.
Yes.
But it was terrible. It was like the whole process was just aggravating. And
I wish it was funnier.
I was not informed of this process in any way, shape, or form. I saw it 1.5 times before I was informed that I am now being interrogated for this making of, which I was not a part of. I like coffee, and I didn't know anything about this, and I still don't, so.
do you have anything to say about Kiss of Espresso, Dasher?
Oh, you guys are going out.
Do you have anything to say? No? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna speed past this yellow light. I don't give a shit.